A voice echoed across the skies, cold and unyielding, laced with disdain that pierced the very core of humanity. The alien general's message reverberated through every device, every screen, and every speaker across Earth. Humans, he began, his tone dripping with contempt. You are but fleeting shadows, weak and incapable. We have conquered countless worlds, extinguished greater civilizations than yours. Surrender, and perhaps your annihilation will be swift. The arrogance in his voice was palpable, his scorn meant to crush any glimmer of hope. His words painted a grim picture of an unstoppable force, leaving no room for defiance in the hearts of those who listened. Panic rippled across the globe, manifesting differently in every corner. World leaders convened in urgent meetings, their faces grim, illuminated by the cold glow of strategic displays. In schools, children clung to their teachers, their innocent eyes wide with fear as they overheard the murmurs of doom. Homes turned into havens of uncertainty, parents holding their loved ones close as news broadcasts displayed the alien armada's sheer scale. The religious leaders called for prayers, offering solace to those who sought it, while others questioned the point of faith in the face of such overwhelming power. Yet amidst the chaos, there was defiance, a flicker of hope buried deep within humanity's collective spirit. People whispered of resilience, of standing tall even when the odds were insurmountable. The general's broadcast, intended to instill submission, sparked something else entirely, a resolve to fight. The general, observing from his command vessel, exuded pride and superiority. To him, humanity was a trifling opponent, their efforts futile. He was a figure of dominance, clad in ceremonial armor that shimmered with otherworldly energy, a symbol of his unchallenged authority. His overconfidence was unshakable. The idea of resistance from Earth was almost laughable. They are insects, he sneered to his subordinates. Crush them swiftly, if they dare resist. But his hubris blinded him to the very nature of the challenge. He had issued a challenge that would soon test not just Earth's survival, but the foundation of his own beliefs. Earth stood defenseless, its technology centuries behind the alien empires. The enemy's fleet hovered ominously, their ships sleek and menacing, armed with weapons that could obliterate cities in moments. Tactical superiority lay heavily in their favor. Their forces operated with precision, their strategies honed over countless conquests. The enormity of the threat loomed like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over every corner of the planet. Cities fell silent as their inhabitants looked skyward, wondering if they would see another sunrise. Yet, in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity clung to its inherent stubbornness. Fear mingled with determination, creating a volatile mixture that fueled desperate ingenuity. The thought of extinction weighed heavily on every soul, but so did the instinct to survive, to protect, to endure. In the heart of this chaos, a decision emerged, radical, unconventional, and entirely human. Rather than amass armies or build futile defenses, Earth would send a single soldier to represent humanity in the confrontation. It was not a decision made lightly, nor one without dissent. Many questioned its merit, seeing it as a symbolic gesture, a gesture doomed to fail. But those who believed saw something more profound. This was not a war of numbers or technology. It was a declaration of humanity's resilience, a statement that Earth's strength lay in its spirit, not its arsenal. The world would place its hopes on one individual, a solitary figure to embody their collective will. The soldier was not introduced with fanfare or grandeur. They emerged from the shadows, a figure of quiet strength. Hardened by countless battles, their face bore the lines of experience, their eyes reflecting the weight of what was to come. There was no need for speeches or boasts. Their presence alone conveyed competence and resolve. The soldier carried no advanced weaponry, only tools honed from Earth's ingenuity and their own expertise. Their movements were deliberate, purposeful, each step a testament to their readiness. As they accepted the mission, there was no hesitation, no wavering. They understood the enormity of the task and the trust placed upon their shoulders. The atmosphere was somber as the soldier prepared to depart. Leaders, once divided, now stood united in silent witness. The air was thick with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The soldiers' demeanor, calm and unshaken, seemed to instill a sense of quiet confidence. They were not just representing Earth's strength, they were a symbol of its unyielding spirit. As they stepped forward, a wave of emotion rippled through those gathered. It was not the rousing cry of victory, but a deep, collective breath, a shared determination to stand together, no matter the outcome. For those watching from their screens, the departure was a surreal moment. The transport vessel, sleek and unassuming, rose into the air with a silent grace, carrying humanity's hopes beyond the atmosphere. People gathered in public spaces to watch, their eyes fixed on the disappearing speck in the sky. Some wept silently, while others stood with their heads bowed, praying for the soldiers' safe return. The weight of the mission was not lost on anyone. This was more than a fight for survival, it was a statement of who they were, of what it meant to be human. As the transport door closed behind the soldier, sealing them off from the world they were protecting, there was a profound silence. For those watching, it was a moment that transcended fear and doubt. The mission was not just about survival, it was a test of what it meant to be human. And as the general's mocking voice still lingered in the minds of many, humanity's answer began its journey, carried by one resolute figure, into the unknown. The transport vessel ascended into the silent void, leaving Earth behind as a faint blue orb suspended in darkness. There were no crowds, no cameras capturing the moment, no grand speeches marking the occasion. Only the faint hum of the engines and the steady pulse of instruments filled the sterile interior of the craft. On the ground, military officials stood in somber attention, their faces hard with resolve. Global leaders watched in solemn silence, their expressions betraying the burden of the decision. The soldier, seated calmly in the cockpit, gazed forward, their demeanor as steady as the stars ahead. There was no need to look back, the weight of the world was already with them. The journey was devoid of distractions, punctuated only by the faint whir of navigation systems and the occasional adjustment of the vessel's trajectory. The vast expanse of space stretched endlessly in all directions, an oppressive reminder of the isolation the soldier faced. Yet their thoughts remained sharp, unclouded by fear. Their mind was a fortress of discipline, each emotion compartmentalized with precision. Fear had no place here. Doubt was a luxury they could not afford. Instead, their focus sharpened on the mission ahead, replaying the scenarios, the strategies, the purpose behind every move they would make. Every so often, the vessel's systems hummed softly, indicating minor course corrections. The soldiers' eyes flicked toward the readouts, their movements calm and deliberate. There was no anticipation, no wasted energy in fidgeting or restlessness. They had trained for this both in body and mind, and it showed in the serene way they carried themselves. The void of space was not an enemy to be feared, it was simply another stage on which they would prove humanity's worth. As the vessel began its descent toward the alien planet, the first glimpses of the surface came into view. What unfolded below was a stark, unforgiving landscape, a world seemingly designed to repel life. Jagged black rocks jutted out of the ground like broken teeth, their sharp edges catching the faint, sickly glow of the planet's sun. The air shimmered with a metallic haze, heavy and oppressive, as if the atmosphere itself sought to crush any intruder. Rivers of liquid fire snaked through the terrain, casting an eerie red glow that bathed the world in a perpetual twilight. It was a realm that spoke of hostility and dominance, a fitting home for the alien empire. The vessel landed with a soft hiss, its exterior coated in the dust of the barren ground. The soldiers stepped out, their boots crunching against the uneven surface. They paused briefly, scanning the terrain with a practiced eye. Every detail was noted: the density of the air, the sharp drop in temperature, the faint vibrations beneath their feet that hinted at unseen activity below. The soldier adjusted their breathing to the new environment, their body instinctively adapting to the hostile conditions. Each movement was deliberate, each step purposeful, as they began to survey the area. In the distance, the alien soldiers stood in rigid formation, their armor gleaming like molten silver under the weak sunlight. They were taller and more imposing than humans, their elongated limbs and angular features giving them an otherworldly presence. Their eyes, cold and unblinking, tracked the lone figure with a mixture of disdain and confusion. They had expected an army, a full-scale confrontation that would justify the might of their forces. Instead, they were met with a solitary human, unremarkable in appearance, walking calmly toward them without hesitation. The general observed the scene from his command platform, his advanced scope zooming in on the lone figure. A smirk tugged at the corners of his mouth. "This is what they send," he muttered to himself, his tone laced with amusement. A single warrior. A desperate, feeble attempt to save face, he leaned back in his ornate chair, dismissing the sight with a wave of his hand. To him, the soldier was insignificant, a mere distraction before the inevitable triumph of his empire. But on the ground, a different tension began to unfold. The alien soldiers exchanged wary glances, their disciplined formation faltering ever so slightly. The soldiers' unhurried approach unsettled them. There was no fear in their stride, no hesitation, no indication of weakness. The lone figure moved with an almost predatory calm, as if they were the ones in control. The aliens were accustomed to overwhelming displays of power, to crushing their enemies beneath the weight of their might. This quiet defiance was foreign to them, and it gnawed at the edges of their confidence. The soldiers stopped just short of the alien line, their posture relaxed but alert. They made no move to engage, no attempt to provoke. Instead, they stood silently, their gaze sweeping over the assembled forces with a calculating intensity. Every detail was being logged, every movement analyzed. The aliens, for all their technological superiority, were being observed as if they were the prey. It was a subtle but profound shift in the dynamic, one that the alien soldiers were too proud or too blind to recognize. The general's voice crackled through the air, amplified by unseen devices. "Is this your champion, Earth?" he mocked, his tone dripping with scorn. "A single warrior to stand against the might of an empire? I almost feel pity for you." The alien soldiers chuckled, their confidence momentarily restored by their leader's words. But the soldier remained unmoved, their silence speaking volumes. Words were unnecessary. Actions would define the encounter. The general's amusement slowly began to waver as he continued to observe. The soldier's presence, though unassuming, carried an undeniable weight. There was something unsettling about their stillness, their refusal to react to his taunts. It was as if they were waiting for something, a hidden plan unfolding behind those calm, piercing eyes. The general dismissed the unease as irrational, a trick of his imagination. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted. The planet itself seemed to respond to the tension, the ground vibrating faintly beneath the soldiers' feet. The metallic air grew heavier, the oppressive atmosphere pressing down like a physical force. Yet the soldier remained unaffected, their posture unchanged. They began to move again, this time walking parallel to the alien line, their gaze sweeping across the formation. It was a subtle but deliberate act, one that suggested they were taking measure of their enemy. The aliens bristled under the scrutiny, their discipline slipping further with each passing moment. The soldiers' silence became their greatest weapon. Without a single word, they had shifted the balance of power, turning the alien soldiers' confidence into unease. The general, watching from afar, clenched his jaw, his earlier amusement now replaced with irritation. "Enough games," he muttered, issuing orders to his subordinates. But even as his commands echoed across the battlefield, the lone figure continued their deliberate observation, unaffected by the escalating tension. The game had only just begun. The soldier continued their calculated movements, fading into the labyrinth of jagged terrain as the alien troops maintained their uneasy vigilance. The silence lingered, oppressive and absolute, as though the planet itself conspired to amplify every footstep, every whispered command among the alien ranks. But the soldier left no trace, no sound, as they began their first move. Blending seamlessly with the shadows cast by the uneven terrain, They advanced toward the perimeter of the alien encampment, their every motion deliberate. Each rock, crevice, and outcrop became an ally, a tool to outmaneuver the enemy. As night fell on the desolate planet, the soldier used the darkness to their advantage. A distant generator sputtered and failed, plunging a section of the encampment into chaos. Lights flickered, alien soldiers scrambled, and sharp commands cut through the air as officers demanded order. The cause of the malfunction remained undetected, a mere inconvenience at first glance. Yet it was only the beginning. Minutes later, a communication relay crackled with static before falling silent, cutting off vital lines of contact between units. Equipment malfunctions became frequent and untraceable. Soldiers reported weapons misfiring, supply drones veering off course, and strange glitches in their surveillance systems. The disruptions were small, almost insignificant when viewed in isolation, but together they sowed doubt and confusion among the alien troops. Their discipline, once ironclad, began to erode. Whispers spread through the ranks like wildfire, each soldier recounting strange occurrences, shadows moving in the corners of their vision, footsteps where none should be, the eerie feeling of being watched. The alien soldiers, conditioned to face overwhelming forces head-on, found themselves unprepared for an enemy they could not see, let alone confront. The general, monitoring from his command center, initially dismissed the reports as the imaginings of nervous troops. "They are weak," he sneered, his tone dripping with disdain. "Humans rely on tricks because they lack strength. Maintain your positions and stop wasting my time." Yet, even as he dismissed the concerns, his irritation grew. The soldiers' actions were deliberate, calculated to exploit the aliens' overconfidence and reliance on technology. Where brute force had failed countless others, the soldier wielded subtlety and precision as their weapons. The alien troops began to falter. Patrols moved with increased hesitance, their once confident strides replaced by nervous glances over their shoulders. The oppressive silence of the planet became a relentless presence, amplifying every creak of armor, every hiss of shifting equipment. Soldiers began seeing movement in the shadows, their triggers itchy as paranoia took hold. Shots were fired at imagined threats, each burst of energy illuminating the empty landscape and revealing nothing but their own fear. The general's frustration mounted as reports of unexplainable incidents flooded in. His once commanding voice now carried an edge of exasperation, his orders growing sharper and more impatient. "Focus on the objective." He barked at his officers. This is nothing more than a desperate attempt to delay the inevitable, but even he could not deny the strain on his forces. The disruptions were affecting morale, and morale was a vulnerability he could not afford. The soldiers' silence was their greatest weapon. It became a force of its own, an invisible presence that haunted the alien troops. The absence of direct confrontation unnerved them more than any open battle could. Used to overwhelming their enemies with sheer power, they found themselves outmaneuvered by an opponent who struck without being seen. Every malfunction, every shadow, every whispered rumor became a piece of a larger strategy designed to unravel their confidence. As days stretched into nights, the alien camp became a hive of unrest. Soldiers muttered among themselves, their distrust spreading like a disease. They began questioning their leadership, wondering if the general truly understood the nature of the threat they faced. Equipment failures grew more frequent, their causes elusive. Supply routes were disrupted, their resources dwindling as the soldier methodically chipped away at their infrastructure. A water purification system failed, leaving a portion of the camp without fresh supplies. Storage units were tampered with, their contents mysteriously missing or contaminated. The general's arrogance began to crack under the weight of his troops' deteriorating discipline. His once pristine command center, a bastion of order and control, now reflected his frustration. Holographic displays flickered with error messages. His subordinates hesitated to deliver bad news, and his previously calm demeanor gave way to sharp outbursts of anger. He began issuing contradictory orders, driven more by desperation than strategy. His inability to adapt to the unconventional threat only compounded the chaos within his ranks. Back on Earth, the world held its breath. The soldier's absence weighed heavily on humanity's collective consciousness. News channels replayed the last images of their departure, analysts debated the strategy's merit, and citizens gathered in hushed circles, clinging to faint hope. The absence of updates was both agonizing and inspiring. The silence, though unnerving, symbolized the soldier's determination and resilience. In schools, children whispered stories of the lone warrior defying impossible odds. Families lit candles in vigil, their flames flickering in quiet solidarity. The soldier, unaware of Earth's watchful eyes, continued their mission with unwavering focus. They moved like a shadow, disrupting the alien forces with an almost surgical precision. Each move was deliberate, each action calculated to maximize its impact. They used the planet's hostile environment to their advantage, setting traps that appeared as natural disasters, exploiting the alien troops' unfamiliarity with the terrain. A sudden rockslide crushed an outpost, its cause attributed to the planet's instability. Gas pockets erupted without warning, forcing soldiers to evacuate key positions. The soldiers' mastery of psychological warfare turned the very ground beneath the aliens' feet into an enemy. The general, once a figure of unshakable confidence, now found himself questioning his own strategies. His arrogance, once his greatest strength, had become his greatest weakness. He had underestimated humanity, dismissing them as insignificant, and now he faced the consequences of his hubris. His troops, once a symbol of discipline and power, had devolved into a fractured force, their fear outweighing their loyalty. He paced his command center, his thoughts a storm of frustration and denial. How, he muttered under his breath. How can one human accomplish this? The alien camp, once an imposing stronghold, now resembled a crumbling edifice. The soldiers' relentless pressure had transformed the Empire's elite forces into a shadow of their former selves. The whispers among the troops grew louder, their doubts becoming a chorus of dissent. The general, desperate to restore order, made a critical mistake. He tightened his grip, issuing harsher commands that only alienated his soldiers further. His empire of fear began to collapse from within, eroded by the very tactics he had once dismissed. On Earth, the silence persisted, but it was no longer a void. It was a symbol of resistance, a reminder that humanity's spirit could not be extinguished. The soldiers' actions, though unseen, resonated deeply with those who waited. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting to redefine what it meant to stand against impossible odds. And as the alien empire's grip faltered, the world watched with quiet pride, knowing that their champion carried their hopes with every step. The soldiers' relentless campaign had pushed the alien forces into a state of disarray, their once unshakable confidence now fragmented by fear and doubt. Amid the chaos, the soldier approached the heart of the alien base with the same quiet precision that had defined their every move. The facility loomed like a fortress of steel and shadow, its angular design a testament to the Empire's cold efficiency. Surveillance drones hovered in tight formations, scanning the perimeter with unwavering vigilance. Guard patrols marched in synchronized patterns, their glowing visors cutting through the dim haze of the alien atmosphere. The soldier crouched low behind a jagged outcrop, studying the base's defenses with a practiced eye. Each drone sweep, every patrol route was analyzed and logged in their mind. The soldiers' breathing remained steady, their movements calculated to blend seamlessly with the terrain. They moved like a phantom, exploiting blind spots in the surveillance grid and slipping past the guards undetected. A single misstep could spell disaster, but there were none. The soldiers' discipline and training were unmatched, and their focus was absolute. As they infiltrated deeper into the facility, the soldier encountered layers of defenses designed to deter even the most determined attackers. Automated turrets lined the corridors, their sensors primed to detect the faintest movement. The soldier paused, assessing the system's response patterns. With precise timing, they activated a small, handheld device that emitted a localized burst of electromagnetic interference. The turrets sputtered momentarily, their targeting systems overwhelmed, allowing the soldier to slip past unnoticed. Inside the base, the atmosphere was tense, the air thick with the acrid scent of burning fuel and electrical discharge. The alien troops moved hurriedly, their discipline strained under the weight of countless failures. Reports of sabotage and mysterious disruptions had sown seeds of paranoia among the ranks. The general's voice crackled over the intercom, barking orders with increasing urgency. He remained confident in the invincibility of his command center, unaware of the lone figure that now moved ever closer. The soldiers' path through the base was marked by methodical precision. They avoided unnecessary engagements, using their knowledge of the base's layout to bypass heavily guarded areas. When confrontation was unavoidable, the soldier acted swiftly, neutralizing guards with silent efficiency. Each encounter was over in moments, the fallen enemies left unnoticed by their comrades. The alien empire, so accustomed to overwhelming displays of force, had no answer for such a subtle and deliberate approach. At last, the soldier reached the core of the command center, a cavernous chamber dominated by towering consoles and holographic displays. The general stood at the center of it all, his imposing figure silhouetted against the glow of the screens. He was engrossed in a heated exchange with his officers, his frustration evident in the sharpness of his tone. None of them noticed the shadow that slipped into the room, silent as the grave. The soldier stepped forward, their presence finally acknowledged as the general turned to face them. For a moment, the room fell into stunned silence. The general's expression shifted from shock to disbelief, then to anger. "You dare enter here alone," he snarled, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Do you think this changes anything? You are nothing but a fool, a single human clinging to delusions of defiance." The soldiers stood unmoving, their calm demeanor a stark contrast to the general's fury. They made no effort to speak, their silence more powerful than any words could be. The general's confidence faltered, the weight of the soldier's presence pressing down on him like an unseen force. For the first time, he saw not a lone opponent but the embodiment of humanity's indomitable spirit. The soldier's defiance was not just an act of resistance, it was a mirror held up to the general's arrogance and failure. The officers in the room exchanged uneasy glances, their faith in their leader visibly shaken. The soldier's infiltration of the command center was an unthinkable breach of security, a feat that should have been impossible. The general, so confident in the Empire's superiority, now faced the undeniable proof of humanity's resilience. His soldiers, witnessing his growing uncertainty, began to question the very foundation of their loyalty. The unyielding image of the Empire was crumbling before their eyes. The general's rage reached its peak as he lunged toward the soldier, his ornate weapon drawn. But the soldier did not flinch. They sidestepped the attack with effortless precision, their movements a testament to years of training and experience. The general's strikes became increasingly erratic, his frustration clouding his judgment. Each failed attack only deepened the psychological chasm between them, the soldier's calm serving as an unspoken declaration of victory. At last, the general paused, his breathing labored and his weapon lowered. The soldier remained still, their gaze locked on him with an intensity that spoke volumes. The realization dawned on the general like a cold wave: this was not a battle of strength or technology. It was a battle of will, and he had already lost. The soldier's presence had shattered his belief in the Empire's invincibility, exposing the fragility of the power he had so long taken for granted. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the command center's systems. The general's weapon clattered to the ground, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his defeat. His officers, seeing their leader brought low, began to lower their own weapons, their expressions a mix of shame and uncertainty. The soldier had not fired a single shot, yet they had dismantled the Empire's grip through sheer resolve. The soldier turned and walked away, their mission complete. The alien troops watched in stunned silence as the figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a command center stripped of its authority and confidence. The Empire, once a symbol of unassailable power, was left questioning its strategies and the arrogance that had led to this moment. The general's failure became a catalyst for introspection among his ranks, their faith in the Empire's dominance forever shaken. Back on Earth, the soldiers' return was marked by quiet reverence. There were no parades or grand celebrations, only the solemn acknowledgement of what had been achieved. The soldier, their face etched with the weight of their journey, was welcomed with subdued gratitude. Their story spread across the globe, not as a tale of conquest, but as a testament to humanity's resilience and resolve. They had not only faced an empire, but had redefined the meaning of courage and determination. The world, inspired by the soldiers' bravery, began to rebuild with a renewed sense of unity. The mission had been more than a fight for survival, it had been a declaration of humanity's strength, not in numbers or technology, but in the unyielding spirit that refused to bow. And as the alien empire reeled from its encounter with a single human, Earth stood stronger than ever, united by the knowledge that even in the face of impossible odds, their spirit would endure.